In the bizarre world of video games, there's very few constants. Eating meat's always acceptable regardless of where it came from, Gatling guns always have infinite ammo, and GameStop will always be dicks. Why are they dicks? Stay tuned and I'll tell you 10 reasons why. Welcome to the top 10 reasons why GameStop sucks. Let's begin. Number 10. Shitty trade-in credit. This is what GameStop's most notorious for. And it would be higher on this list, but the fact is that since most people are either too stupid or lazy to sell their games on eBay, I kinda don't blame the company for wanting to make as much money as they can. After all, they are a business, and I'm not just trying to shit on the company for the sake of getting views. And besides, they do occasionally offer fair deals for using trade-in credit towards newer releases. Still though, trying to give me $10 for a game that came out last week? That's still pretty dickish, and don't worry, just because I showed them a little sympathy with this entry, I'm not about to hold back on these butt wagons. Number 9. They won't just tell us when they're doing midnight releases. Whenever I have to pre-order something at GameStop, the stores never tell me until 2 days beforehand if they're doing a midnight release or not. And if they didn't want to do them at all, that's fine. I'm sure it must suck for the employees, but just let me know so I can plan ahead of time. The part about this that's sketchy and dickish is that they know if they tell people ahead of time that they won't do a midnight release that they'll lose a lot of pre-orders. My GameStop didn't do a midnight launch for the release of the 3DS or the Wii U. When the Wii U was released, I was out of town and I left a video premiere early to get back in time for the midnight launch, and the store wasn't even open after they told me they would be a week earlier. And I assumed that the 3DS would have a midnight release because, well, I was young and naive. So when I arrived to pick up my fully paid off handheld, I could tell that the store was closed because the lights were off and I was the only person in the parking lot. Plus the windows were barred up and the alarm went off when I smashed the glass to get inside. So what'd I do? Well, after evading the police, I went to Walmart and got a 3DS there and then canceled my pre-order at GameStop the next day and got my money back. And then I went to jail for breaking and entering, attempted burglary, and indecent exposure. But the joke's on them, they lost a sale. Number 8. No more cool pre-order incentives. What the frig, Funko-land? Pre-ordering games at GameStop used to mean getting cool physical rewards like keychains or DS styluses. Now all it gets digital bullshit. I know we're lucky to get pre-order bonuses at all, but now what am I supposed to cram up my number 7? Ass. Most of the employees. Now we're getting past the small nitpicks and getting into the real nitty-gritty. I'm gonna talk about this a good bit on the rest of the list, but most of the employees either don't know what they're talking about, are rude, or both. Some people that work there are really nice and easy to deal with, but more often than not, they steam my clams. From talking down to me for not being interested in certain games, or trying to talk to me about my Okami shirt and trying to get me to buy the HD remake 3 different times in one visit, it's just straight up uncomfortable to be in there sometimes. Number 6. They try to upsell used games over new ones. Just about every time I've tried to buy a new game from GameStop, they try convincing me to buy a used copy for like $5 cheaper at most. And one might think it's nice that they're trying to save the customer a few peanuts, but in order for them to get that pre-owned copy they're trying to sell you, they had to rip off a sweet old lady in a motorized cart who simply wanted to get her grandson the newest Call of Duty for his 4th birthday. So not only is GameStop taking away all of the money from the developers who actually make these games, but Miss Honecker only got $2 in store credit for her Bubsy 4K Remastered collection, all while saving you a mere 5 cold hard American dollars. Meanwhile, GameStop just profited $40, and the only work they did was conning everybody involved. Before everybody in the comments gives me Hell Week all rolled into one night up in here, don't think I'm against buying or selling used games. Just make sure you're the one who actually benefits from it, not these wieners. And while we're talking about them selling used games, let's move on to number 5. They sell used games as new. Well, technically they don't use the games before selling them to you. They only break the seals and cover them in stickers while hiding the inserts in game behind the counter. And when they had GameCube games, they put the goddamn discs inside the instruction manuals. I mean, fuck me for having a problem with them storing new games in something that won't scratch the disc, right? I remember going in to get Pokemon White 2 on release day, and there was only one copy left. The one they had left happened to be the display copy, so when they handed that to me, I asked him if I could get one that was new. Now, I knew what this guy was trying to do here, but I wanted to hear his justification for giving me an open game covered in stickers that for some reason don't easily peel off without staining the case. And he just looked at me and explained how it was new because nobody had ever played it before. Look, it's one thing for a corporate policy to be fucked, but for this human being to stand there and look me in the eye and act like it's perfectly okay for GameStop to sell me an open game as new, yet not accept returns for games that have been opened even if you have a receipt and brought it back within an hour like Walmart or Target would. I'm not the type of guy to have little dick syndrome and be rude to somebody just for doing their job, especially over a Pokemon game. So I just said I wasn't interested and got the game somewhere else. I don't really blame the policy of not accepting returns if the game's been open, but if that is your policy, then you can't have your employees open games because you're afraid people will shoplift them. Just get a friggin' case like every other store has. Number 4. This one time they sold me a digital game instead of a physical copy. I haven't heard about this happening to anybody else, so it's not something people need to worry about, but this is my list, so fuck it, it's number 4. Back when New Super Luigi U was slated for release on the Wii U, I pre-ordered a copy literally the day I heard about it. Little did I know, the game was to be released digitally on June 20th for $19.99 and physically on August 25th for $29.99. Admittedly, I didn't specify which version I wanted to pre-order, but if I'm going to a brick and mortar store to buy a game, don't you think I'd probably want the physical version? Don't get me wrong, I can understand preferring a digital download over physical media, but why would you drive to a store to buy a code on a piece of paper without a discount or some sort of incentive? I mean, they could have at least asked me what I wanted. So when I showed up on June 20th to pick my copy up, the woman who was working handed me a receipt with a download code, which confused the hell out of me. I told her I wanted the physical version, and she told me it's not out till August 25th. I know it's partially my fault for not knowing that, but when has anything like this ever happened before or since? I'd like to think that being confused isn't out of the question here, but then she told me they can't refund a digital download code. No store credit, no exchange, nothing. At the time, I was somewhat of a regular, and this woman was always nice to me. She genuinely seemed like she felt bad that I'd been bamboozled by that scumfuck who assumed I wanted to pre-order a digital game over a physical version. So I didn't want to cause a scene since I didn't blame her. But why the fuck would anybody in the history of the universe even briefly consider the possibility of pre-ordering a digital download code for a game instead of a physical copy? This man, but more importantly this company, had no problem sneaking themselves into being middlemen by intercepting money that I could have easily spent on my fat ass at home. Once again, everybody's inconvenienced besides GameStop. And fuck that guy who conned me to meet his quota. He's probably a smackhead now anyway. Number 3. Employees are forced to lie to customers. That's right, and if you don't believe me, just look the Circle of Life program up. It's the protocol GameStop employees are forced to go by to meet their quotas. Every time you walk into a GameStop, employees have to ask you if you want to pre-order anything, subscribe for a rewards card, or if there's any used games you want to buy or sell. Typical corporate BS, and I've already talked about this a little bit earlier in the list. Not that big of a deal by itself. However, if employees don't meet their quotas, they get fired, which isn't exactly the best way to boost morale. But early in 2017, after the announcement that they'd be closing 150 stores, GameStop straight up told their employees to lie to customers who wanted new copies of the game by telling them they were sold out, but that used copies were still available. And for some reason, the company didn't think word of this would get out, and that employees who were generally unhappy working there would keep this a secret. And it's for this reason specifically that I don't trust that GameStop will curb their evil behaviors. Number 2, the Xenoblade Chronicles fiasco. This falls under the same umbrella as opening new games and still selling them as new. In 2012, GameStop exclusively released Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii, which is a game North America wasn't even supposed to get because Nintendo wasn't sure if it'd be worth it or not, since these types of RPGs aren't nearly as popular anywhere in the world as they are in Japan. But GameStop insisted on bringing this game to the States for a limited run, knowing that there'd be a demand and that it'd surely sell. I didn't pre-order this, and I would say it's because they stopped giving us cool bonuses, but the truth is, I simply just forgot. I still managed to get a copy, but they charged me an extra $5 since I didn't reserve it. And I'm not just saying this for the sake of vilifying the company even more, but the guy was kind of a dick about it. But to be honest, I don't think that charging a little extra money for this game makes them dicks in this situation. After all, they brought this game to America in the first place, and if I had to pay an extra $5 or $10 for an official copy of Mother 3, I'd gladly pay and think of the extra scratch as a thank you donation for anybody who made sure I could get it. But after this limited run ran out, the prices on eBay skyrocketed over $100 for used copies at its peak. And then out of nowhere, GameStop comes out and tells everybody that they somehow sourced more copies of this game, even though they were the only ones who had the rights to it in the first place. And GameStop employees from all over the country claim that their stores received boxes of sealed Xenoblade Chronicles that they were told to open so they could resell as pre-owned, which would then justify them pricing the game as high as $90 or $81 if you had a power-up card. Woo! Funny how they open games and call them pre-owned when it's convenient, isn't it? I'm not sure if another company would have ended up releasing this game or not, but the reason this isn't number 1 is because they did at least bring the game to the States, and because they did sell like 5 copies on their website for $20 before jacking the prices up. Still though, GameStop, this whole ordeal was just a dick move, you bastards. Number 1, they destroy games. Ever seen GameStop dumpster diving videos? They're pretty cool, right? Seeing people get cool stuff for free and even sometimes selling their findings back to the very store whose trash they foraged through is pretty entertaining. Especially back when cartridge games were still a thing. Although more importantly, it's worth wondering why GameStop is throwing games away instead of donating them or at least not sending them to the dump to be destroyed. Fucking a-holes. Nowadays, games don't even need to wait until the dump before their untimely demise. Most of the time, employees put a big scratch on any disc-based games before throwing them out. And now that they're accepting retro games again, they're destroying those too. We need a vigilante or something to stop these greasy schmucks. I would say that although they're evil, they're great at business, but that's not even true. Yeah, all this shady shit led to increased short-term profits, but how much money do they lose from all this bad PR? I go out of my way to avoid GameStop whenever possible. If you go to Google and type why GameStop, most of the suggested searches are negative. While GameStop's business is declining, they still have a chance to turn things around. But since the company's immediate response to sales being done from the previous year was to tell their employees to straight up lie to customers, I don't exactly have a lot of faith in them. Despite what some may say, physical games aren't going anywhere, at least not in the near future. So GameStop won't be going anywhere anytime soon, but I do think the hole in their ship will slowly but surely lead to the company's downfall. Some employees are rude or snooty, and others have no idea what they're talking about, but a lot of the people that work there have always been nice to me on the rare occasions that I do visit the store, so I don't want to see them go under. I just hope that they change their ways and stop being dicks. What do you think, though? Am I the one who's being a dick? Or do we really need a vigilante superhero to stop these evil weenies? Let me know in the comments below, and feel free to share your own personal GameStop horror stories. I'd like to know if I missed anything. If you like this video, it'd be cool if you clicked the like button, and if you're new to the channel, why not check some of our other videos out? And if you like those videos, then subscribe for more and click the little bell button for notifications. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty, thank you for your support.